inspiring interviews with today's top landlords. This is the Rental Income Podcast. And now, Dan Lane.
If you are brand new to rental property investing and you're trying to figure out how to get started and buy your first rental property, I wrote an ebook that'll show you exactly how to do it. You can download it right now. It's totally free. Just go to landlordgift.com. I've heard from a lot of members in the community that either want to buy their first property or they're trying to grow their portfolio, but they're having some kind of problem. Maybe it's money or the numbers don't work or they don't have the knowledge. Whatever it is, it almost doesn't matter because I think after you hear today's guest, you're going to walk away really motivated and thinking, gosh, if he can do this, I can definitely do this. Louis Quintanilla from New York is joining us on the show today. Louis started with absolutely nothing, and over the last 4 years, he has built a portfolio that is paying him six figures a year. So I want to see how he did this and how he runs his business. So let's take a real quick break. We'll come back in 1 minute, and we will talk to Louis.
Would you like to know the easiest way to create wealth and passive income with real estate? This is Marco Santarelli with Norada Real Estate Investments. Now you can access the best deals without the stress or hassle of having to find, renovate, or manage those properties. We save you time by providing you with passive income investment properties in some of the best U.S. markets. Learn more by downloading your free copy of The Ultimate Guide to Passive Real Estate Investing. There's no obligation and nothing to buy. Simply visit passiverealestateguide.com and get your free copy today. That's passiverealestateguide.com.
The first step in buying a rental property is to get pre-qualified, and I would suggest you work with a lender that specializes in working with investors because you don't want to get to closing and find out the money's not there and you can't close. The lender that I recommend is Chaley Ridge from Ridge Lending Group. She's got a special offer just for our listeners. She's offering to waive all the pre-qualification fees if you mention Rental Income Podcast. Find out more today. Contact Chaley at ridgelendinggroup.com. That's RIDGE lendinggroup.com. Hey, Louis, thanks for coming on the podcast. You've got a real motivating story. And before we get into it, why don't you just tell us where you are today, and then we'll kind of take a step back.
You know, I'm a young guy. I come from South America, I'm as an immigrant here living in the U.S. Like I was telling Dan, when I first came here, I spoke no English and I still have an accent. So if somebody like me who's still pretty young, who spoke no English when he got here, who comes from an immigrant family that had like absolutely no money when I first got to this country, and if I was able to build a portfolio where I'm making six figures in rental payments right now, in 4 years, then anybody can do what I did. It can do this even better because real estate is not that difficult. I have another business aside from real estate. Those businesses are more difficult because you have employees, you have a whole bunch of things. With real estate, you buy a property, you put a tenant in there, and then that's pretty much it, once you have systems in place. 4
years is not a lot of time. So what does your portfolio look like today?
So my portfolio consists of currently 17 units mostly in New Jersey. And also I'm part of a syndication for a 41 unit apartment building. And currently, fingers crossed, I will close in a few months on a 64 unit commercial building.
You've really accomplished a lot in not a very long period of time. So I want to kind of figure out how you got to where you are today. What I think is interesting is that you live in New York City, but you don't own your rentals there. Talk to me why you don't own rentals in New York. I think I know the answer, but I want to hear it from you.
Sure. Oh, man. New York is so expensive. Yeah. I mean, everything is like millions and millions of dollars. So most people, it's very hard to find a property that will cash flow.
Right.
So New York is not a good city in terms of a cash flow. It's more for a lot of people buy New York for appreciation.
Right.
But I prefer my cash flow, a good return on my investment.
So when you first decided that you were going to buy rentals, did you did you just kind of know that, or did you kind of figure that out by looking at some different deals?
Well, yeah, a little bit of both actually, because in about 2004, we bought a property. Back then, it was still relatively affordable. And, I was looking at prices in New York because I wanted to keep buying in New York because that's where I lived, right? I wanted to buy homes near me so I can manage them and it could be easier. And then once I started looking at properties, I was looking at properties, that were 800, 900, $1 million. And I did the math and I'm like, this doesn't make sense.
Right.
Like I'm cash flow negative.
Right.
And
Right.
I have to pay out of my pocket, and it just didn't make sense.
Yeah, it really doesn't. So how did you find the area that you're investing in? Like, did you just start looking, because your rentals are about an hour and a half away? Did you just start looking at areas that were a little bit further away and then stumble on this town?
I was just doing a lot of market research, and I was looking at areas that were kind of near me, no more than 2 hours away.
Mm-hmm.
And then I stumbled upon New Jersey. I stumbled upon Mercer County, specifically Trenton. And I saw that, it was about an hour and a half away. And I saw that there was a lot of good opportunities. There was good cash flow opportunities, properties that were actually affordable, between 100 to 200 to me, even $70,000.
Mm-hmm.
And they were cash flow positive.
Right.
So I went over there. I met up with an agent, and that came recommended through a friend. His name is Justin. Met him, and then that's when this all started.
Awesome. Now, what about learning the area? Because I'm sure there's probably good parts of Mercer County, and I'm sure there's probably bad parts or areas that maybe are better than others. How did you learn where the best place to, or how did you kind of learn the market to figure out where you wanted to be?
So my real estate agent helped me out a lot. He pointed out the areas that I should invest in and other areas where I shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
I also drove around, especially at nighttime. I tend to buy in areas where I would feel comfortable walking at nighttime.
Right.
If I don't feel comfortable walking there at nighttime, then I'm not going to buy there.
Yeah, that's a good, that's a good way to kind of qualify things. That I like that. All right, so you got familiar with the area, and then did your realtor start finding you deals, like, and start sending you properties that kind of met what you were looking for?
Yes. So he helped me out a lot at first. He started sending me deals, and we started looking at them. I also, on my own, started looking at deals online, networking with people, meeting investors, just trying to look at as many deals as I could,
Mm-hmm.
and doing the numbers on them, see what works out, what didn't, trying to familiarize myself with doing numbers. And, it was a mixture of my real estate agent, mixture of friends, and mixture of me just looking everywhere. I'm talking about like Craigslist, I'm talking about Zillow, Realtor, everywhere.
So with that distance, like, so an hour and a half isn't that far, but it's, that'll take up a whole day to go there by the time you get there and look at a few properties and get back home. Did it take a lot of going up there to look at places, and a lot of like, oh, I think this is going to be a good deal, let me run up there and check it out, and then you get up there and it's maybe not as good as it looked online? Did a lot of that happen when you were getting started?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, that in the beginning, that was it was very, very tough because, like you said, I have to drive it's 3 hours, just going and coming back.
Right.
So
right.
I would go. So what I would do is I would try to put together like 10 properties to see in just one day. So I dedicate one entire day to just looking at properties. So I'd see 10 of them. Sometimes I would see 12,
Right.
as many properties as I could, because yes, when you look at a property online in pictures, it does not look the same.
It's always different. It's never as good.
Yeah. They take like the best angles in the pictures, they make it look all pretty and stuff. And you're there, you're like, wait, what, is this the same house?
Right. All right. So tell me about the first property that you found that you ended up putting an offer in on.
So the first property that I bought was is in Mercer County. It was in Hamilton. It was a single family. It was a 2-bedroom, 1 bath. And I actually got a really good deal. It was I think it was an estate sale, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
I bought that property for about $62,500.
Okay.
Okay, cheap. I rented it for 1,300.
Awesome.
So that's like the 2% rule.
Yeah.
If people are familiar, I don't know if people are familiar
Yeah.
with the 2%
Why don't you
rule.
explain it just in case anyone isn't?
So the 2% rule is basically let me give you an easy example. If the property is worth $100,000 and you can rent it for $2,000, then that meets the 2% rule. It's
Right.
2% of the purchase price.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, it was a pretty good deal. I sold it like 2 years later for almost $100,000.
Incredible. Wow. So did the property need any work or was that ready to go?
No, it needed a little bit of work. It didn't need so much work. Painting, carpets, and just updating on the bathroom, and it didn't need much. I think if I remember correctly, it probably spent about $7,000 at most.
Okay. Now, what about finding contractors? I mean, that's something that's always a challenge for me. Has it been easy for you to find contractors for that first deal, and then as you've continued to buy more properties?
Yeah, actually, that finding contractors is not easy.
No, it's not.
I had to go through a few contractors to find the contractors that I work with now. But what I recommend, how people can find the best contractors and the best real estate agents, is by networking. Mm-hmm. There are I go to a real estate investment networking event. Typically, a lot of really good real estate agents and contractors will go there from time to time, with their business cards, and through word of mouth, like asking my real estate agent, asking other investors, hey, who do you use for your properties? Who can you recommend? And a lot of them have been using contractors for 2, 3, 4 years that are really good. Right. And then they recommend them to you, you use them, and then they turn out to be really good, really good people.
So will you go up there and meet them? Or do you just give them like a lockbox combo so that they can go in and give you an estimate? How does that work?
So at first, I meet them personally because I want to. At first, I like to meet people face to face and talk to them and get a feel for them and have them meet me as well.
Right.
Because this is going to be like a really long, like a partnership kind of, like these are people that you're going to be working with for, God willing, many, many years. So at first, face to face, and, I look at their work. Once I get a little more familiar with them, then I just give them a lockbox number. They go in, they do work, they take pictures, and I pay them online. Problem solved.
Will you give them like an idea of what you want to have done? Like you'll say, listen, like this carpet needs to go. We need to paint, like this kitchen needs to be remodeled. Like, do you give them an idea, or do you have them go in there and tell you what they think needs to be done?
Actually, both.
Okay.
Because sometimes I go and I tell them, this is what I want to do. And then they tell me, oh, what would be cheaper, or what would be better, or what would be easier. And, maybe save you a little bit of money, save you some time. Maybe we can do this instead.
Okay.
Right. And then I'm like, oh, okay, you know what? That does make sense.
Yeah.
So
now how about making sure that work's done? So like how long does a typical project take for you?
So normally it would take about 3 weeks.
Okay.
I tend to buy properties now that need, maybe a complete rehab, gut rehab of the kitchen, bathrooms. Those are the two things I stick mostly to rehabbing, because whenever you buy a property, if you want to get the most value out of a property, kitchen and bathrooms. Right. That's where you have to put all your money in.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you work the payment? Like, because like usually they want some money to get started. Do you pay them a little bit up front and then kind of check on them as they're doing the work?
Yes. So I definitely give them at least 50% of the money up front, because I now have a good relationship with them, right? So I'll give them 50% up front, and then I'll pay, 25% up until the work is done. Okay. So I definitely give them a payment up front, and then they start doing the work, and then I they'll take pictures, or sometimes I'll go, because I'm always going to buy more properties, take a look, see what they're doing,
Right.
things like that.
Now, let's talk about management, because you are self-managing these properties. Has that been difficult to do that, you're an hour and a half away. Like it's not like you can just pop in. Has that been a challenge?
So at first it was a bit difficult, but I guess that goes for anything. Whenever you try to do something, initially it's going to be a bit hard, a bit complicated. But once you get the hang of it, once you have the proper systems in place, and what I mean by that is, my contractors. I now have a rental agent, a rental person. So that covers pretty much all of my management. So what the system that I have in place now works like this. Whenever I have a vacancy, I send my rental agent. She knows exactly what I'm looking for as far as credit score goes, as far as income. No pets, no smoking, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
She'll rent out the apartment for me. She gets a commission off of, the rent. And, she'll put the tenants in place. She'll send me their application. I take a look at it. And then I say, yes or no. Whenever there is a leak, whenever there's anything wrong in a property, my tenants text me. And I text my contractors. They go there the same day, or within 24 hours, they'll usually go in the property, take care of whatever the problem is. And then they'll send me a bill online, and then I pay them, and and then that's it. That's how
Awesome.
the system that I have now. But this did take me, some time to build, because you have to have people that you trust, as far as contractors, as far as your rental agent.
Right. So you're not really ever meeting the tenants. So like the listing agent is placing them in there and getting them set up, giving them the keys. Like you would never necessarily have to meet the tenants for a move-in, right? Or does your agent handle all that?
No, the rental agent, she handles all of that. I don't meet them. Some tenants I don't meet up until like 2-3 months later. There's a tenant that moved in one of my houses about 2 months ago. I still haven't met them.
That's great.
Yeah. So she just takes care of all of that.
Yeah. And then how do you get payments? Are they paying you electronically online?
Yeah. So they pay me two different ways. They pay me online, and they also pay me. Some of them go to my bank. I have some bank. Not all banks have this, but some banks do. I know Santander does, because I have Santander. They can make cash deposits or into your bank account.
Okay.
And then they'll take a picture of the receipt, and then I'll know it's them. And obviously all of them have different rental amounts. So that's how I know. But most of them do go and do it online. And
then what service are you using to pay online?
So I use Chase QuickPay.
Okay. And
Chase doesn't, I think Chase is not the only bank. Now, most major banks are affiliated. It's called Zelle. Chase QuickPay is under Zelle.
Yep.
So almost every single bank has them.
Awesome. And that's free, right? There's no charge for that?
It's completely free. And the good thing about it is that the minute the tenant makes the rent payment, it goes 1 minute later, it's in your bank account.
That is awesome.
Like funded. Yeah, that's what I love, Zelle.
Yeah. Now, how do you keep track of everything? Are you using any kind of software to keep track of everything, or spreadsheets, or what do you do?
Yes, I use, as far as the software goes, I'm looking into a few of them right now, but for now I'm using spreadsheets.
Okay.
I'm very up to date with my spreadsheets. I do everything. I put it on the cloud so that, I can work with my spreadsheets when I'm home, when I'm on the go on my phone.
Yeah. And so what do you have on there? What do you keep track of? Like what the rent is when their lease is over? Like what else are you tracking on there?
Right. So I have all of the income for all the properties. I have my expenses. I have my insurance, my property taxes. I have exactly when the lease starts, when the lease ends. I have what else? Yeah, all of my expenses and income, and
That's great. Payments. Yeah. That's awesome. So you're happy with the way everything's working out. I mean, this system you figured out really seems like it's been working out great. I mean, because you've bought a ton of properties over the last 4 years. Do you feel like you've perfected everything?
Well, I mean, yes, the system does work for me.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's 100% perfect, but it works for me because
Yeah.
I don't have to be, I can stay in New York. I don't have to go to New Jersey every day to collect rent. I don't have to
Right.
go whenever there's a problem, whenever a tenant leaves. Everything is handled for me.
Right.
And it's working for me right now. But I
Yeah.
know that, maybe next year, once I have 10 more properties, I might have to go and, stop using the Excel spreadsheets and actually have a software.
Awesome. Well, if you missed Lewis's contact info or you want to look it up later on, I've got a link to everything he just mentioned on the website. You can find it at rentalincomepodcast.com/episode 184. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. If this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe on whatever podcast app you're listening to, and you'll get a new interview delivered to you automatically every single Tuesday. My name is Dan Lane, and this has been the Rental Income Podcast.